Picture this: an island nation larger than Libya and Asia combined. Its people were wealthy, powerful, and technologically ahead of their time. They ruled the seas, built temples coated in precious metals, and lived in harmony with nature. Then, in one catastrophic night, the entire civilization sank into the ocean, never to be seen again. That's the legend of Atlantis, a story told more than 2,000 years ago that still puzzles historians, archaeologists, and explorers. But here's the twist: we still don't know if Atlantis was a real place, a distorted memory of an ancient disaster, or just an allegory invented to teach a lesson. So why does this mystery remain unsolved after centuries of searching? Let's dive deep. Plato's story, where it all began. The legend of Atlantis starts with one man, the Greek philosopher Plato. Around 360 BCE, he wrote two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, where he described a civilization that supposedly existed 9,000 years before his time, that places Atlantis around 11,000 years ago, long before known human history had complex societies. According to Plato, Atlantis was located beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. He said it was a massive island empire, blessed with fertile soil, fresh water, exotic animals, and an incredible navy. Its capital city, built in concentric rings of land and water, was unlike anything else on Earth. Temples were covered in gold, silver, and ivory, and the Atlanteans were unmatched in both military might and cultural advancements. But the heart of Plato's tale wasn't about Atlantis thriving. It was about Atlantis falling. He wrote that as the Atlanteans grew more powerful, they also became greedy and corrupt, turning away from their once virtuous nature. The gods punished them. In a single day and night of earthquakes and floods, Atlantis sank beneath the ocean and disappeared forever. Here's the catch: Plato presented this story not as fiction, but as something passed down from Egyptian priests. That's why Atlantis has fascinated people for centuries, because Plato wasn't telling it like a myth, but like a history lesson. The lack of evidence. The riddle intensifies at this point. There is a lack of concrete evidence to prove that Atlantis ever existed, despite the fact that people have been seeking it for hundreds of years. In spite of the fact that historians and archaeologists have searched the Mediterranean, the Atlantic Ocean, and even the deep-sea trenches, no remains have been discovered that correspond closely to the description provided by Plato. This is what causes many academics to think that the story of Atlantis was never intended to be considered as a literal account. They think that Plato came up with this story as a warning about how unrestrained ambition, greed, and arrogance can bring even the most powerful civilizations to ruin. Atlantis was a symbol rather than a location for their way of thinking. However, many put up a different opinion. Plato may have been inspired by actual events, such as the volcanic explosion that occurred on the island of Thera, which is now known as Santorini around the year 1600 BCE, according to some. That eruption obliterated the sophisticated Minoan civilization, destroying towns and fleets in a single night. The abrupt and total destruction of the Minoans could have resonated over the ages for certain people, eventually forming the legend of Atlantis thousands of years later. The issue is that the works of Plato are the only ancient source material for Atlantis that exists. There is a complete absence of records that are Egyptian. Not a single other Greek historian makes any reference to it. This scant historical trace makes Atlantis both an eternally fascinating enigma and frustratingly elusive. The theories: where could Atlantis be? Over the centuries, people have tried to solve the riddle by placing Atlantis in almost every corner of the Earth. Some of the most popular theories include the Caribbean, the shallow waters of the Bahamas with their mysterious underwater rock formations called the Bimini Road, have convinced some that Atlantis lies here. Believers say these structures are remnants of Atlantean streets or walls. Antarctica. Some suggest that Atlantis was Antarctica before the shifting ice buried it. The theory goes that the continent's current icy state hides evidence of a once thriving advanced civilization. The Sahara Desert. In Mauritania lies the Richet structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara. Its circular layered shape resembles Plato's description of Atlantis's concentric city design, sparking speculation that it could be the true site. The Atlantic Ocean. The traditional location, since Plato specifically said it lay beyond the Pillars of Hercules. Explorers and even early cartographers believed Atlantis might sit somewhere beneath the Atlantic seabed. The sheer number of possible locations is part of what makes Atlantis so mysterious. Every theory has passionate believers, yet none have conclusive evidence. The absence of proof keeps the legend alive. The cultural impact of Atlantis. Even if Atlantis never existed, it has shaped human imagination for centuries. Writers, adventurers, and filmmakers have turned it into one of the most famous what-if stories of all time. In the Renaissance, scholars debated whether Plato's writings were factual. In the 19th and 20th centuries, Atlantis became tied to pseudoscience, mysticism, and even theories about aliens. Authors like Ignatius Donnelly claimed Atlantis was the origin of all ancient civilizations, while others connected it to lost technologies or spiritual wisdom. Today, Atlantis appears everywhere, from comic books to movies like Aquaman to countless video games. It symbolizes both human curiosity and the dream that ancient secrets still lie hidden beneath the sea. Why the mystery stays alive. Despite years of investigation, the enigma of the fabled city of Atlantis has yet to be completely explained. The answer is simple. It is located exactly in the midst of both history and myth. There is a lack of considerable evidence, particularly in the form of relics, ruins, and ancient manuscripts. Aside from Plato's works, there are no other examples. On the other hand, the plot is sufficiently persuasive to cause people to question the veracity of the events that are taking place. It was a widespread belief that ancient civilizations such as the Minoans and even the city of Troy were merely myths until the ruins were discovered. Optimists who maintain that Atlantis is a real place are heartened by this. They believe that one day they may be proven right. The puzzle will remain unsolved until someone discovers incontrovertible evidence, such as a submerged city that corresponds to Plato's descriptions and contains remains that can be dated. This may be the source of its allure. Instead of concentrating on the things that we are already aware of, Atlantis is more preoccupied with the things that we are ignorant about. The Lost City of Atlantis remains one of history's most enduring puzzles. Was it real, or was it just a story designed to warn humanity about greed and pride? Maybe it's buried deep beneath the ocean, waiting to be uncovered. Or maybe it only exists in our imagination, fueling our endless desire to discover the unknown. So, what do you think? Was Atlantis a real civilization swallowed by the sea, or just a myth that refuses to fade? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the world's greatest mysteries, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more videos that explore history's biggest secrets.